Hey guys, we're going to talk about chemical and physical changes as preparation for your quiz today. Now, this quiz is mainly just meant to be a review for your science test tomorrow. A physical change in matter, we've been talking about that a lot. You can see physical change when the physical properties of something become different, like something turns from a block or a cube, like with these sugar cubes, to a powder. So the texture, the size, and the shape of this item all changed. But the chemical nature of the sugar is still the same. The atoms have not been rearranged, the molecules have not been rearranged. Its chemical nature is the same still. So, as a reminder, physical changes, you can observe a change in properties. And notice that this includes the phase of matter that the substance is in. Like you could have a solid go to a liquid and it would still be a physical change and not a chemical change. Scientists can test things like whether or not a physical change has occurred by measuring the mass of a substance before and after the change occurs. If the mass is exactly the same before and after it changes, then most likely a chemical change has not occurred. Physical changes might occur affecting the shape, texture, size, or the physical nature of a substance, like whether or not it has dissolved in liquid to create a solution, or whether or not it has broken apart into smaller pieces. All of those are examples of physical change that can affect these different properties. With physical changes, the matter stays the same. The particles, the atoms of that substance, have not changed. And the original matter can be recovered, meaning physical changes can be undone. Chemical changes cannot be undone. So some examples of physical changes include taking a piece of aluminum foil and cutting it in half, shaping or molding clay or Play-Doh, spreading butter on a warm piece of toast, changing water from one state to another. For example, water evaporating, boiling water on a stove, and some of the water evaporating in the form of steam, freezing juice into a popsicle, or evaporating other substances, like rubbing alcohol, for example. Those are all examples of physical changes. A chemical change is something very different. In a chemical change, you probably will have changes in the physical properties in addition to new matter being formed. When a chemical change occurs, the atoms and molecules of a substance will be rearranged to form a new substance that wasn't there before. So remember that when we're talking about atoms and molecules, we're talking about the tiniest particles that exist in the universe. An atom is the tiniest particle that we can use to describe matter, and molecules are combinations of two or more types of atoms. When we talk about chemical changes, we understand that matter has changed and it cannot typically be undone, meaning typically you can't go back in time and rearrange those atoms to what they were before. The old matter is no longer present in the form that it was originally there. So like when you burn a piece of wood in the fireplace, you can't go back in time and unburn that firewood. If you open up your fridge and see some gross rotten fruit or vegetables that's been in there for way too long, the atoms and molecules in that food have been rearranged and you can't go back in time and undo that. Here's some examples of chemical changes. Milk going sour, jewelry becoming tarnished, which is like if you have a ring or if you have a silver spoon and it gets that kind of dirty, cloudy look to it. That's what tarnish is. Rust forming on a nail. We've been observing that this week. Lighting a match. and changes that happen to food when your body digests it. Those are all examples of chemical changes that cannot be undone. So now we're going to talk about the questions on your quiz. Now you're going to do this quiz in Kami, so you'll be inserting a text box and typing your answers. Your answer choices include the following terms: chemical property, reactant, mixture, solvent, chemical change, solution, product, physical change, matter, dissolve, and solute. Number 1, blank is a change in matter that produces a new kind of matter with different properties. The term that goes in this blank is chemical change. A chemical change is a change in matter that produces a new kind of matter with different properties. Number 2, a change in size, shape, state of matter that does not create a new kind of matter is a physical change. A blank is the substance formed in a chemical reaction. Now, this is not something that we've talked about before. When you have a chemical reaction, the new matter that is produced or made is called the product. So, for example, when we combined vinegar and baking soda and carbon dioxide was released, the carbon dioxide was the product, that the new substance that was formed in that chemical reaction. The substance that enters a chemical reaction, meaning the stuff that you start with, is called the reactant. So the reactant that we used when we combined the baking soda and the vinegar was actually combining those two substances, baking soda and vinegar. So that's like the stuff that you start with. Reactant plus reactant equals product. Blank is anything that has mass and takes up space. That's easy. We know that's matter. Any of a material's properties that become evident during or after a chemical reaction. Okay, let's think. Any of a material's properties that become evident, meaning that we can then see and observe, that become evident during or after a chemical reaction. I would call those chemical properties. To blank means to mix completely so that the particles cannot be seen. When you put sugar in water and stir it and stir it and stir it, eventually the particles of sugar appear to disappear. We know that really they haven't disappeared. They're still there. They're dissolved in the water. To dissolve means to mix completely so that the particles cannot be seen. When two or more substances are physically combined but not chemically combined, you get a mixture. Number 8 should be mixture. Number 9, a blank is a mixture in which the particles are mixed together thoroughly and evenly. That is a solution. We also learned to call this we could also call it a homogeneous solution. A mixture in which the particles are mixed together thoroughly and evenly. The smaller quantity in a solution is called the solute. And the larger quantity in a solution, typically in 5th grade, we talk about the larger quantity is the liquid that we're using to dissolve the solute. The larger quantity in a solution is called the solvent. So the solvent is what is doing the dissolving. The solute is what is dissolved. All right, next we have some multiple choice questions. You guys can go ahead and answer those on your own. And then last but not least, we have a page where you can put your ideas about physical changes. So record a type of matter in the first spot, insert a text box here, tell what the change is, and then tell what the resulting matter is. Okay? So for example, if we had some water on the stove boiling for macaroni and cheese. The original matter is water. The change that it goes through is adding heat. So we can put heat here above the arrow. And then the resulting matter is boiling water and also water vapor rising up in the form of steam.